We haven't really had major problems. I mean, there's always some low-level bug or disease or fungus out there, and I think that's normal. You don't really work too hard against the problem you don't have.
I've been really fortunate in 40-some years of farming organic. I've never had a bug issue much, not much, just haven't had a bug issue.
In a wet year, we'll get some stripe rust and some things, but usually around here it dries up so quick enough and it gets so hot and it'll the wind will blow and kind of dry out everything, and it'll actually help spread it a little bit, but it'll cure the problem as well. And with pests, kind of what we're seeing a lot this year is grasshoppers. I usually don't have many insect problems at all. Even when I was conventional, we never sprayed pesticides ever because we just didn't have the issues. And I think one of the solutions to those pests is have pollinator strips, have the good predatorial bugs that are going to fix the ones that are a nuisance. So I think fighting nature with nature is a lot better than, fighting nature with chemicals.
In general, we don't tend to have very many systemic insect pest problems like leaf-eating pests and beans and aphids and things like that. I think partly because we have such an insect-rich environment. There's predators, there's diversity, there's woods and grasslands and stuff all around. And I think that we have a balance of beneficial and, negative insects. But I think all of the control methods for both diseases and insects, for us, it's entirely cultural. We don't buy any products to control insects or plant diseases. So the long rotation mitigates risk in terms of plant diseases because you have a diversity of plants that have different disease vectors. Buckwheat doesn't share any disease vectors with anything. So to grow that ahead of winter wheat really helps us mitigate fusarium head blight risk in winter wheat. With all of those, we're pretty much playing the long game and mitigating risk. We're never really surgical in any particular, we have this problem, let's do this thing.
So you've never used an input?
No.
We make sure a lot of our grain we put in the bins clean, so it's not dirty. We screen it or put it in the bins clean. If it's wet at all, we make sure and get it dried. That's a big thing, But bug issues for storage haven't been a big thing, and in the field's not a big thing neither. I mean, I'm not saying we've never had them, but I've had so few issues with that. It seems like if you've got your rotation down, got your soil in decent health, you just don't have a lot of issues like that, But if your things are out of balance, that's when you get lots of issues like that, Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's all there is to it. Maybe the cultural control of a proper rotation is enough. I mean, really, it should be,
The number one disease that we would have would be in chickpeas, and it's Ascochyta blight that can just decimate a crop. And that usually blows in from neighboring fields, and a lot of the issues with that is early planting of a crop that does not like cold, wet soils. So a lot of people around here will plant their chickpeas as early as possible because they view it as a pea, as a legume, so they want it in even in March. And they always end up with Ascochyta blight, and it will blow in, and they're spraying every 2 weeks, $20 an acre applications. And so I try and put my chickpeas in. How I kind of address that problem is I'll put them in late May. It'll be the last thing that I seed for the cash crops, and try and get them into as warm a soil as possible without it being too late in the season. I mean, anywhere from 50 to 60 degrees is ideal, but sometimes you do have to put them in a little bit different.
I've used Dipel once. So we had armyworm last year in popcorn. It wasn't heavy armyworm pressure, it was an alfalfa field, but there was some there, and they were chewing on it. I knew it was toward the tail end of it, but at the same time, I know, you can go from not so bad overnight to terrible the next. And it was a historic armyworm, cutworm year last year anyway for this area. So I sprayed Dipel on 2/3 of the corn acres. It probably was wasted money, but it was insurance, at that point. The field ended up doing well. I don't think the armyworms would have done enough damage, but it was just that not knowing, where they were. It was just right. It was just a borderline judgment call. It's not something I regularly do. This year, I didn't have the sprayer out at all doing anything. And really, the organic standard says that, it's not to be a yearly thing.
You're gonna have some grasshoppers on the edges, you're gonna have some things, and you need to be tolerant of losing some crop to some things, because overall it's not the biggest hit. It doesn't look pretty, more weeds might come in those areas, but you need to learn to live being imperfect.